Wow, that's so quiet. Good evening, everyone. Do you mind the lights off? Is that okay? You guys okay? Yeah, because otherwise it feels like we're in the school cafeteria. So we have to create a little bit of ambiance. But I still wanted to see these beautiful young faces up here as we play tonight. We are like you don't know this, we are the Stetson University Jazz Ensemble, and my name is Patrick Hennessy, and I'm so honored to be back here directing the program once again. My dear friend, Mr. Waldrop, has decided to retire. He's here tonight to join us. So, thank you, Don. We're going to get started with a classic Buddy Rich selection by Bill Potts. This is Big Swing Face. I have no idea why it's called Big Swing Face. I just know that I had a friend that had a big round face, and we called him Big Swing Face. But just a little tidbit on Bill Potts as a musician. He actually played. I taught in Hawaii for 31 years, and I found out that Bill Potts actually started off playing Hawaiian guitar, and then later switched to accordion until he heard his first Count Basie record, decided piano was for him, and we're all better off for that. So we're going to kick off with Big Swing Face. Thank you so much. That was Paul Colas on the alto saxophone solo. Wendell Vickers on guitar. Ashley Mangret on the trombone solo. And playing the role of Buddy Rich, Mr. Story Miller. All right, here we go. All right. How many of us are familiar with the song Second Time Around? Love is better the second time. Yes, it's a great tune. And we're going to play a wonderful recording. We're not going to play the recording, but we're going to sound like the recording. This is a wonderful Billy Byers arrangement of a tune that has been recorded by everyone. And it was, Sinatra even initially recorded it in 1960, and it was the first single that Reprise Records had ever issued at that point. So here we go with the Billy Byers treatment of Second Time Around. Mr. Cody LaFleur on the trumpet solo. Cody. All right, and Emily Bertal on the piano. Thank you, Emily. Okay, we're going to play something by Mr. Sammy Nestico. As many of you know, Mr. Waldrop did a fine tribute to Sammy Nestico last spring. Well, this selection is something that, you talk about standard Nestico charts, and they don't come as standard or as well-crafted or as often played as Freckle Face. And I had the privilege of witnessing the Basie Band perform this on many occasions. And so it's just one of my all-time favorites. And here we go with Freckle Face. Thank you so much. Once again, that was Emily on the piano solo. Thank you, Will and Tom Casey, of course. And Mr. Stephen Bott on trumpet. Okay, we're going to feature an instrument that doesn't get featured often enough, I think. That's because I'm a trombone player. And we're going to feature our bass trombonist on this next selection. A Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. And I jotted down, I have this wonderful book at home that I was looking through. I think it's called, the title is called The Song Is You. And it's all about Frank Sinatra's recording career. But it's from the perspective of the musicians and from the perspective of the recording studio and so on. And it's really interesting. And so in 1962, Sinatra was touring the world. And he decided, one of the projects they decided on was this thing called, a project called Great Songs from Great Britain. And so the album came out, Sinatra Sings the Great Songs of Great Britain. Well, the producer, Alan Friedman, was talking about the composer, Eric Maschwitz. And so this is Alan Friedman saying about Eric. He says, when the story got out that the Great Songs from Great Britain session was going to happen, Eric called me and nearly drove me mad. He said, for God's sake, make sure this song gets in. It would be the crowning of my career to have Sinatra record one of my songs. That's the impact that Frank Sinatra had in the music world. And, I don't know, he should have realized that Sinatra actually recorded this one song of his twice earlier, These Foolish Things. He actually recorded in 1945 and 1961. But still, this composer thought this would be the crowning of his career if this song made that album. And it did. And by all accounts, including Alan Friedman, this was the most successful cut of that record. So this is an arrangement of Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square, and it's going to feature Tyler Schulte on the bass trombone. And there's also Ivan Chacon on the trumpet. And Jenna Belushi on the bass sax. And of course, Wendell Vickers on the guitar solo. Okay. Okay, just double checking because my page has got all mixed up. Okay, we're really changing gears now. Up to this point, it's been a lot of swing. Well, we're gonna get into a little bit of Brazilian groove now. This is by Herbie Mann. It's called "Keep the Spirit Singing." And Herbie Mann's real name was Herbert J. Solomon, and he was he was a pioneer in two ways. He was an early pioneer of world music and incorporating the world beats into the jazz idiom, and he was also one of the very first accomplished jazz artists on flute, and primarily flute. And so a friend of mine did this arrangement for me several years ago, and we'd like to feature, we're going to feature Lendl once again on the guitar, and Story on percussion, and we're going to bring Josh Albert up on drums for Keep the Spirit Singing by Herbie Mann. Well, how about them apples? Great tune, performed exceptionally. Mr. Josh Albert on the drums. Josh. Mr. Story doing on the congas, Story. Mr. Lendell Vickers on the guitar. And Mr. Jonathan Lockwood on bass. Okay, what's up next? Boy, I got all my pages out of order here. I got so excited on that. Waiting for a cue from behind me. Bag's Groove. Bag's Groove. This is it's a blues tune, it's a jazz standard by Mr. Milt Jackson, you know, very interesting. Have any of you heard the Modern Jazz Quartet? You jazz fans out there? Modern Jazz Quartet, just, you know, legendary group. And Milt Jackson was really at the center of that. He was vibraphonist. And it's just a little interesting little tidbit on this particular tune. For the Bag's Groove, which is the title selection of the Miles Davis CD that, on this particular session, Miles used the Harmon mute. And for those of us who know Miles Davis playing, you know, the Harmon sound, what you know, really came to be identified with Miles' sound. Well, Miles used the Harmon, you know, this particular session for the very first time in the studio, and thereafter it really became his identity. So we would like to feature Josh once again, except this time on vibes, playing the role of Milt Jackson, and we'd like to feature Mr. Anthony Virgilio on the tenor sax, or otherwise known as Tony by some other people, and and Mr. Alex Oates on trombone. This is Bag's Groove. Okay, we're going to feature Josh once again. When he asked me at the beginning of the semester if he could play a couple of tunes on vines, he didn't know what he was getting into. I just happen to have these selections in my library from a performance I did several years ago with Emil Richards. Emil Richards is a legendary studio musician, vibraphonist, and there are two recordings of this piece out now, and at the time there were only one. Well, I want to give you a little idea of who Emil Richards is. He's a person that you've heard his music, and you have the faintest idea that you did, because of all that he's done over his 2,000 plus movies and television and everything else he's done. It's a complete joy to work with, as Don knows. Here's a few little tidbits. We all know that the tune Scarborough Fair. Well, listen closely, and when you hear those bells at the beginning of Scarborough Fair, that's Emil Richards. When you listen to the theme from Mission Impossible, and you hear those bongos, that's Emil Richards. And in the Simpsons theme, the xylophone, that's Emil Richards once more. Now here's one you may not get, but we all know, we've all heard it, and we can all do it. Anybody know the Addams Family? That's Emil Richards. So here we go. And I forgot to ask him, well, he told me years ago, but I don't remember what he meant by Yo Go Joe Po, but we're going to play his composition. Mr. Charles Halpern on the microphone. If he was really going to play the role of Family Emergency, he'd have to do this. And that was on drums, once again, Mr. Story Miller. And Jonathan Lockwood on the bass side. Okay, we're going to feature this young man right here, Mr. Anthony Virgilio. This is a selection that's been recorded by many, many people, but we're going to do this version that was recorded and performed by the great Woody Herman Orchestra. This is We'll Be Together Again, Mr. Anthony Virgilio. Mr. Anthony Cordelio playing the role of Woody Herman. And Mr. Paul Collis on the alto sax solo as well. Paul? Speaking of Paul and Oliver Nelson, we'd like to feature Paul on this. We're going to feature them later. I was getting ahead of myself. Thank you, Paul. We're going to get back to the Count Basie Library. And this was a selection that, we're so used to hearing all the works of all the great arrangers like Sammy Nesterville from the Count Basie Orchestra. But now we get to play a composition by Freddie Green. And do any of us or all of us know who Freddie Green was? Freddie Green was the man that sat there with the guitar and usually had his legs crossed, leaning back, and the guitar's kind of flat. And he played 4 beats forever for 40 years. 40 years. And I think I read somewhere where they said that there was only one documented solo that Freddie Green ever took, and it was only 8 bars. Otherwise, he was the timekeeper of the band, just like in the program notes, Emma Richards was the timekeeper of Tinseltown. Well, Freddie Green was the man that kept everything together in the Basie Orchestra, just by playing that. And so he wrote this selection, and he was getting tips from Frank Foster on how to arrange. And so I just want to tell you what Frank Foster had to say about that. Freddie once asked me for some voicing tips for his song, Corner Pocket. So I gave him some tips about 4-part harmony, and I gave him a book called First Arrangement, written by Van Alexander. Now, Ernie Wilkins was doing this Basie arrangement of Corner Pocket, but Freddie was interested in learning about arranging as well, because he had already composed the song. So a few months later, Freddie looked at me, Frank Foster, not me. Freddie looked at me with an approving smile and said, "First arrangement, baby." That was Freddie Green. We're going to play Freddie Green's composition of Corner Pocket. I'd like to feature Paul tuning up. That was Anthony Virgilio once again on the tenor sax solo. This is Stevie Bott holding down double duty tonight on jazz trumpet and lead trumpet. And Emily on the piano solos as well. Okay, I think it's time to feature Paul. Yeah, on a great Oliver Nelson selection. My pages are all out of order, I'm sorry. But this is Black, Brown, and Beautiful. Oliver Nelson was a very innovative composer and arranger, and really had a storied career. Beginning well back when he was in the St. Louis area, and his first big break was touring with Louis Jordan and his band. And over the years, you've heard Oliver Nelson's scoring and arranging in so many television and movie productions. So this is an example of Oliver Nelson, the beautiful melodicist. So we'd like to bring Paul up and feature him on Oliver Nelson's Black, Brown, and Beautiful. I always call this on that. Thank you. Give them another hand. All right. Well, I'll do my library chores here. Are we in our last selection now? All right. So we all know the song Bill Bailey, Won't You Please Come Home? I assume, yes? And we know it mainly is in the context of Dixieland, early Dixieland. It's just such a staple of that genre. And growing up in New Orleans, I played Bill Bailey, the song, many years, many times. Well, I'd like to give you a little bit of story about Hugh Cannon, because it's kind of interesting. But I want to thank some people first. Okay, so because it's our last selection, and it's been so nice being here with you tonight, and I want to thank you all for coming out and sharing this evening musically with us, and supporting our musicians and supporting our program here at Stetson University. I also, I have such fantastic colleagues, and they're all so great to work with, and so cooperative and helpful, and Dr. Phillips, our director of bands here, he's just tremendous in his support of our program. And of course, our dean, Thomas Massey, and our associate dean, Dr. Noel Painter. And the administrative staff do amazing work as well. And, and there's this lovely, there's a lovely lady in the audience, Michelle, that takes great care of me. In fact, they're doing the videotaping and the recording and everything else, and feeding me when I refuse to eat. And, but I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight and sharing this time with us. And I'd really, really like to thank the musicians of the Stetson University Jazz Ensemble. Please give them a hand. They worked very hard. We haven't had that many rehearsals, and and so I'd say they passed their first test. So let me tell you about this guy, Hugh Cannon. He composed. It's actually a true. It's kind of a true story based on Hugh Cannon's life, and they tell the lyrics tell this true story as interpreted by Hugh, of the rocky marriage between Wilford G. Bailey, that's Bill Bailey, Hugh Cannon's close friend, and Willard Bailey's wife, Sarah Segrist. They married in 1893, and it was very difficult. And if you ever read the lyrics, you'll understand the gist of it. But Willard Bailey's wife once told a reporter in an interview, she said, "Bill Bailey was my sweetheart, but he was everyone else's sweetheart too." So we'd like to end on Bill Bailey, Won't You Please Come Home? Now you know a little bit why it's called that. And this is the great Tom Kubis version of this. And we're going to feature several more members of our group. Lendl Vickers on guitar again, Josh Albert on vibes. Anthony Virgilio is going to be playing some tenor sax, soprano sax with this little Dixieland part with Anthony and Dana Shanami Matos on tenor sax, and Becca Downey on trombone, and Samantha Olick on trumpet. This is Bill Bailey, Won't You Please Come Home? Thank you.